Let's see. Hello, everyone. Here we are live. Welcome, Pleasure Circle. Super excited for today. Y'all are in for a freaking treat. There's just so much goodness in Pleasure Circle, and you get to have it. You get to have more of it today. So if you're watching, say hi. If you're on replay, also say hi. Let us know where you're watching from. And let us know how you're feeling in your body today. This is really, every time we go live, it's here to serve you. It's here to help you jump into your highest possibility, into your freedom of sexuality. And one of the things that we're doing every month is we are bringing in some rock star graduates of pleasure creation. I guess we call it graduates of pleasure creation. So there's a level of like awesomeness and a level of full body expression of sexuality, a level of knowing who they are on the planet, what they're creating. And I'm doing this because I don't know about you, but for me, I get so much inspiration hearing other people's stories. And y'all have heard my story. So I want to bring in other people and show you it's not just me that this big shift can happen to, it's all of us. This is all possible for all of us. And so today's going to be our first pleasure creation guest, and just a bit of logistics is that we have the Facebook Live. I'm just watching it. Yep. We have the Facebook Live happening in Pleasure Circle. And we're also on Zoom, which is an easier way to ask us questions because I'll be checking that from time to time, but not too much. I'm also really loving, I've noticed my hair is still sticking straight up. It's super hot. Can we just do mohawks for today?
Yes, please.
Okay, amazing. So y'all already know Bess because she's quite the thing in this community. But for those of you that don't know Bess, I'm going to intro you as best I can. Let's see what we can play with. So Bess, my storyline of Bess is that Bess came to me. You were a nutritionist, right? A holistic nutritionist.
Yeah.
You were like, what's going on with my sex? Like, it's not happening. I'm not super turned on. This is weird, Genevieve. Like, what is this? And you found me online. We didn't meet in person until a few months ago.
Yeah.
We did one-on-one work together first, where you developed the self-pleasure practice. And then you trashed your holistic nutrition business, burned it to the ground, Kali style, and created a whole new sex coaching business. Now you're also a co-founder of Slutasaurs, which is a huge Facebook group. If you're not in it, get in there, especially if you're a sexual blueprint. You'll love it. And yeah, just like so much transformation. It's been so fucking awesome to be able to witness the journey. And so I really wanted to bring you on to just show people the possibility. And then also at this point now, you're an expert in a lot of these tools. Like, you've done it, you've embodied it, it's there, it's in you. And so for today, I can feel, we were just talking about this, I can feel the collective consciousness is up right now. There's a lot of kind of like safety things going on. A lot of people are stuck in their head. There's a lot of deaths. I have a bunch of friends dying or with COVID and just like deep pain. There's a lot of relationships breaking up and relationship drama. So I also wanted to bring you here because we're going to chat today about coming back home to the body and feeling safe in your body and how you can use the body to drop into that space. So everyone who's watching, know that there's a story, but then there's also some tips you're going to get from this live that you can actually start to implement, especially if you've been feeling the way that most of the people that I've talked to this past week, including myself, have been feeling, right, in their nervous system. So Bess, thanks so much for giving us your time and coming on. If any of you want to talk to Bess more, she is a brilliant human at helping people tap into their visions. So if you're not sure what your vision is, or if it's unclear, or if you're like, how the hell do I do it? How do I become a sex coach like Bess did and the huge group? Talk to her, right? Like, she's available. And then she does her own one-on-one coaching that she's brilliant at. And then she also helps me out in my programs. So you can play with her wherever you want to play with her.
With me.
And you'll post, I don't think we have the link here, but we'll make sure to post that after, so everyone has it. So Bess, tell us a little bit about what life was like before you knew your body. Like, what were you? I remember you, but what were you like?
So I thought I knew my body. So I was a ballerina for years, decades of my life. And then I was a yoga teacher for 10 years. I taught meditation. I thought I knew my body. Like I thought I did. I thought I knew what sex was too. But I got
But
to this.
what was sex? What were you doing with your body? Like, what was sex like? Like, I'm just curious. I want to get like into those nitty gritty.
Yeah. So it was very performative now that I look back on it. And I did have good sex, but it was often a struggle between my brain and my body. So I was so much in my head thinking and, trying to make things perfect all the time. That was a thing, right? Trying to make angles look good and like the right facial expressions. I watched a lot of porn, so I love the performance aspect of that, and I wanted that. However, that didn't feel great in my body.
Yeah.
So I went through a period of, trying to be a hippie and like, coming home to my body. I let all my body hair grow out. I didn't wear makeup, and I dated hippie babes and thought, okay, like I'm gonna get back to the roots and like, feel into my body more. And I still was in my head. Yeah. So when I met Genevieve, I hadn't had sex in months and almost a year, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, it's crazy to think about. I wasn't flirting. I wasn't talking to anyone. I was just doing me. That was it.
Yeah. With all these like external, like, it feels like you were doing all the external things right, like the hippie stuff and the body hair and the yoga. Like, so you were thinking about how to find the bliss and seeking it.
Right.
But it sounds like there wasn't it within your system, within your nervous system.
Not quite. And, part of that was I had disordered eating for a long time, and body image issues. And I didn't feel comfortable in my body. It didn't look the way that I wanted it to look. It didn't look the way that I felt. And so there was a disconnect in that. And that was my first business. I love helping people with disordered eating come back to loving their bodies. So it was a really interesting journey, to come back to my body and then to come back to it in another level and now yet another level. Like, oh, it's so different, but it's still the same body. Yeah, it's interesting.
And with disordered eating, was there, because I had this, similar story, right? Ballerina, yoga teacher, like I did all that. For me, it was almost like there was this disconnect. Like the body was something that I was forcing to be a certain way. Like I was almost like it was a machine that I had to work.
Yes.
Right. And every day it was like, okay, how much energy am I going to put into trying to make the body do what I need it to do so that I can be good enough?
Yeah. Yep. I tried to eat the right foods and, balance my doshas and optimal exercise so that I wasn't too fatigued, but I was energized. And it was just so regimented. Even my showering, I dry brush and abhyanga with oil and like all the things. And I thought this was loving myself. And to some extent it was very loving, right? It came from a place of loving myself.
Yeah.
But I didn't quite feel the love yet.
Yeah, because what were you trying to do to your body and like with all the dry brushing and the
make it perfect and optimal and
yeah, and there's so much pressure.
Yes, it's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. I see this a lot in, because you're a real high achiever, high performer, and I see this a lot. Like there's this like gotta get it right mentality around sex.
Yes, totally. Yeah. And
I was right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was working with a business coach and she's amazing. She wasn't pressuring me, but I was still pressuring myself and learning about how to be an entrepreneur and trying to do that perfectly and just all the things perfect.
Sounds crazy. Sounds really, and I know, I'm so glad we're diving into this because I know there's a lot of people in here that can relate. This is how our society is kind of set up, right? Make it perfect, make it better, do it better. judge yourself, criticize yourself, judge everyone around you so that everyone's perfect enough to be good enough, really. It's like the end game, right? And so you had enough of that, right? Like you just were done. Was there a moment when you were like, I'm done? Do you remember, or was it a series of unfortunate events?
I remember I had, two kind of lingering clients from my former business, and I was so unmotivated to keep doing what I was doing. And I was thinking about moving, right? I was living in a small town and in Oklahoma, and I'm like, what am I even doing here?
Mm.
And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do this business anymore. I'm just not. It's not bringing me any pleasure. Like, how am I even showing up for my clients? And I still did, like, we finished strong, but I was like, I'm not taking any more. I'm just done. I just stopped doing everything online. And it's like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
I just remember asking, like, what's next for me? I've always had that. I remember a friend taught me that mantra-ish thing of if not this, then something greater.
Yeah.
Right. So I carry that with me when something's crumbling and falling apart, like, okay, if not this, something greater. So I just waited for signs, divine inspiration.
Yeah. And that's so where everyone is right now. Not everyone, I don't want to assume, but there's just such a collective death happening really over the past 2 weeks, right? That things are just fucking crumbling. Like people
Yeah.
are just going into like, and so hearing that hopefully gave people some glimmer of hope. Like, y'all, it's not that, it's something better, it's something bigger, it's something greater. Something more aligned to your pleasure and your bliss. And that's what happened, right? Like all of a sudden you found out who I was and we started playing together.
Yeah.
Right? Is that the story? That's the story, right? I think that's the story. Yeah.
I just created you in my existence. And
Yeah. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Yeah. And I remember those beginnings, and I remember the day that you popped into your pleasure and you realized like, oh my God, this is what self-pleasure is. Fuck. Right? Like what was that day like for you?
I remember telling you that all the self-pleasure I had been doing was like McDonald's. I'd been using like this vibrator that I got in college, and I'm in my mid-30s, so it's like,
yes, to the 12-year-old vibrator. How hot.
God. And like I just remember having energetic orgasms for the first time from not touching my body, from playing, hovering over my body, and just like feeling it like growing out to meet my hands, like my body just yes, and then like rippling waves of orgasm. And I'd never experienced that with my 15-year-old bunny vibrator. I'm like, Genevieve, it's like fast food versus the gourmet meal.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, okay, and I've used that vibrator maybe once, twice since then. Like it's just
not, yeah. And so once, like, it sounds to me once you started nourishing your body, right? Instead of fixing it or trying to make it better or just trying to get shit out of it, right? You started actually nourishing your body. Then I remember you started to like be like, Genevieve, I think I want to do this. Like, I think I want to do something like this. I want sex to be my thing in the world. So tell us about that chaos, because I remember you went through another death there. And kind of how you moved through that. That was a good one to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. So even meeting you and meeting you online, I watched an interview with you and Kevin O, and I was just like that's what I want to do. Like, fuck nutrition, it's boring, I'm bored. Like
unnecessary kind of, but
I wanted to do something that lit me up. And so yes, seeing like an example of another human, if another human can do it, like I can probably do it. So I was like, cool. But then I pushed that aside because I'm like, I'm not even having sex. Like how could I ever do this? But yeah, it came to the when I felt my business kind of sucking the life out of me and then me detaching from it. And I thought like, I didn't know what was next. I got a job. It's very weird, like a full-time job. And so I was working in that, and I don't know. It's so hard to think back then. I'm like, that wasn't even that long ago, but
No, it wasn't. I remember in March we connected around before you joined Pleasure Creation, right? And you were working this job and
yeah,
things were starting. And I remember asking you, what's draining your energy? And you were like,
yeah,
it's this job. And
this
I was like,
job.
great. So we're going to quit the job. And then wait, tell them what you did because this was fucking ballsy.
So I struggled through a few more months in my job,
You did.
right? Because I was like, oh my God, I need to make money. Like I can't even pay my bills. I don't even make enough in my full-time job to pay all of my bills. It was ridiculous. But it was like I had to hold on to these last things for a little while. And then it was like it was hurting my heart so much. So within Pleasure Creation, I told everyone that I was going to quit my job and that they were going to hold me to it. And if I didn't quit my job, that I was going to be kicked out of Pleasure Creation.
So badass. It was great too because I was about to kick you out anyways if you didn't, right? Because what uses it, right? To have someone just sit in their safety net. Like we can't actually create leadership that way. We can't do that. And
No.
there, for you, there was this just deep surrender moment of like, fuck, okay, here I go.
Yeah.
And so I think so many people want that. They want to let go that way. They
Yeah.
want, like they have the, I see this, I just talking to something like it happens all the time. They're like, I have a vision and I want to let go, but I can't seem to do it, right? I can't seem to take that leap. So like, what did you do to make that possible for yourself? How did you set that up so that you could do it?
Yeah. So I'd like to say that I had $0 in my bank account too. So it's not like this was an easy transition where I had, savings and no, I didn't. I had nothing. So it was not an easy transition. And yet having the support of the group was so huge for me because I kept getting back into my stories around money, that I'm not going to be able to earn any money, that my self-worth is directly tied to money. And so I had these other people, just like you, just there to support me and be like, is that true, Bess? Is money really all it's about? I'm like, no, but it's so scary. They're like, I know it's scary. I'm going to hold you here in the scary, right? And like come back to pleasure. I can't tell you how many times I self-pleasured like with other people talking to me on the phone, just like supporting me in it because it was scary. It was really scary. And I went through a whole ego death with money and just surrendering to that story that I'm always going to stay small and that I'm always going to spiral back down, and my mom's going to have to come in and save me every time. And that was really like it was so heavy, and I had to let myself fall all the way into that to be able to start to rise back up. And I can't really explain what that process was, but from such deep like despair and surrender, I started to feel the energy move again. Right? From that like huge contraction came like a softening and just like, oh, like, well, what's here now? Right? And it was new and shiny and exciting and like, cool, what's possible? What's possible now? So, right. And the same people supporting me there and loving me in that, like, yes, Bess, go, go, go. So having that community and just having that relationship with my body, the trust that I can dive really, really deep and I'm not going to die. And the trust that I can also soar really, really high and I'm not going to go out of my mind. So
yeah, I really feel that. I remember the day that we had you on the table at the retreat, a pleasure creation retreat, and you grew wings. Do you remember?
Yeah.
You grew wings, right? Um, out of your skin from going so deeply into your body that you grow the wings. So I love that you just mentioned that dichotomy because that's so it, right? That's so it. And I think people miss the mark in that. And I think this is probably what you did for such a long time is you would go like 80% there.
Mhm.
And then to be like, okay, that's enough. I'm gonna distract myself with the job or with this or with that, or right, but I'm not gonna actually go into the full experience because it's too hard, too scary, too painful, too different, too uncomfortable. And so what I'm hearing is that because you had other people trusting that energy, it's not even you. I always say I don't trust the person, I trust the energy in the
Yeah.
person. That's what I'm
Yeah.
watching, right?
Yep.
And that knows where to go. So like back up. And so then what? Like what's cool now? Like what's awesome?
Yeah. I just set up a photo shoot to play with real wings. I'm
Yay!
going to do like a big concept piece with wings. So I'm so excited for that.
So hot. Yes, Bess. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I run a Facebook group with my partner. We're both non-monogamous and just love to share that and share being open sexually. When I first met my partner, he described himself as a huge slut. And I was like, I've never heard someone say that in such an empowered way. I was like, oh, yes. Right. And so we've really embraced that. And the community just continues to grow. Slutasaurs is like, it's such an amazing group, and people supporting and loving each other and like loving their bodies and just being sexy and exactly how they are. It's so awesome to see. I love it.
I remember how y'all came up. I remember the day in Pleasure Creation that you're like, I'm going to start a group called Slutasaurs just because I want to. Like it was an energy of like, and this is just for everyone hearing this. If you're like, how do I start a business? How do I make a huge community? It's that. It's following. You were just like, I want to do it. Mark and I want to do it.
Mhm.
And that pleasure that's what Pleasure Circle was. It was like an inkling off a self-pleasure practice, right?
Yeah.
And you get to follow that current, right? And now you're becoming a boss ass bitch, right? You've got like
I love it. I've been working with one-on-one clients and just absolutely loving it. It's so amazing to watch people transform before my very eyes.
Yeah.
And like step into their power, whatever their particular flavor of power is. I'm like, ah, God, it's so good. Like I leave every client call just like, yes,
Totally.
so stoked.
It's the best. It's the best feeling. Um, uh, tell us about like just to give a piece of like real life talk, right? When you're in the shit, because like I think one of the things I always try to do in this community is just de-pedestalize people, right? So like you and I are not any better, greater, whatever. Like we're not the guru, we're not the teacher. We're just human beings that have found a level of bliss and peace within our bodies. And that doesn't mean that we don't fall into shit or that we don't, get in arguments with people or that we're not, right? Like our human perfection is perfect in its imperfection. And so what do you do when you're or how do you be when you're in those moments, just to give us some tips that people could take, because I think people are really in the shit right now. So yeah.
And I, full disclosure, I've been in the shit for a few days of just like questioning and not, I've been just feeling awkward in my body. And I'm like, what is this? Like, what do I do with myself, And, feeling kind of disconnected from my partner. We had like some strange energetic wall and we could both feel it. We're like, what is this? Like poking at it. And, and I'm like, nothing happened. Like, we're fine. We'll be fine. Let's just like feel the wall and love each other just, with the wall there. So
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the tip, y'all. Did you hear that? So many of us, we see something is up and we try to fix it, change it, right? And this is what you did for yourself in Pleasure Creation. You were like, I'm going to stop fixing, changing. I'm just going to feel my death, right? And to be able to do that in relationship is huge, right? Sometimes Sabrina and I will be in our little like piffy arguments if we're both PMSing, right? We're just like both in our shit. And then it's happened numerous times. We just start laughing at each other.
Yep.
We're like, what are we we do, like, it's hilarious because it's not, and this is the key with pleasure creation, where we bring people to, and you're now holding the space with me for this round, which is so fun. But it's like, come back to realizing that you're not that.
Mhm.
That's really the work. And your partner in front of you is also not that.
Yep.
That you're both fucking awesome, fun, divine beings messing up the human life. And it's joyful and easeful and blissful, you know?
Yep. We just get to remind each other that we are love again and again, and we forget and we remind and we cry and we laugh and we have crazy, amazing sex. And it's just, yeah.
That's it. That's the experience, and you're riding the experience, and that's what pleasure actually is, y'all. So I hope y'all see this. That's what it is. I know that you have to run, Bess. Thank you so much for jumping on with us.
Yeah,
And
this was fun.
yay! And for those of you that haven't hung out with Bess or talked to Bess yet, like, you want to, because they're so fun. They just love helping you in your vision. And anything you want to say about those calls, or before we end, or what people can expect?
Yeah, even if you don't want to do what Genevieve and I do, you don't want to be a sex coach, like, working in your pleasure and eroticism, just, it opens doors in your life. Like, it transformed my life before I was even sure I wanted to do this. My whole life transformed just through stepping into my body and stepping into what is pleasure. So yeah, don't let that hold you back. Like, you can make this into whatever your heart desires. And I love helping and seeing what folks' desires are and how we can actually get there. So
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So much love to you. And I'll see you soon. Everyone, make sure to reach out to Bess if you want to hang out with them. All right. All right, y'all. Bye.